This podcast is about introducing our fans to the animals, plants, and other products that we work with at Josh's Frogs. It's an opportunity to paint a picture of our hobby that is refreshing. We want you guys to be successful with the animals that you're keeping, and we want our hobby to grow ethically and sustainably into the future. Alrighty, welcome to the Josh's Frogs podcast. We have another remote episode today. I'm going to talk with Anthony and Jason of the Gecko Exchange Podcast. But before we do that, just want to let you know that the Josh's Frogs podcast is brought to you by none other than Josh's Frogs. We're your one-stop shop for all your reptile, amphibian, and pet bug needs. Not only do we carry captive bred animals that we're breeding here in Owasso, Michigan, but we also carry everything you need to take care of those animals: substrates, plants, lighting, all that kind of stuff. We got that all at Josh's Frogs. Check us out. We'd love to make keeping those animals easier for you. We got tons of blogs, videos, that kind of stuff. We want you to feel confident in taking care of those animals. So without further ado, welcome Jason and Anthony. Give me a little bit of a rundown. How'd you guys get connected with the hobby? What kind of animals you keep, and then we'll start talking about the podcast. But give us a rundown. How'd you get started in the hobby, and what are the kinds of animals you work with now?
Sounds good. Go ahead, Jay. Spill the beans. Tell them the story.
So how I got into this hobby, right? So my family they're military. So we ended up getting stationed out here in Arizona. That's where I currently am right now. I've never seen a reptile in my life. No, I mean, it was like second grade. So I'd never seen any reptiles until I got to Arizona. And I was like, holy smokes, what is that on the fence? So after that, I was just pretty hooked on it. So me and my friends that I started making, we would go around the neighborhood because I don't live in the country. I live in the city. So, we were just doing like some urban herping, going around, looking under like those water meters, finding all the geckos and spiders, flipping over logs and finding, all kinds of critters and roly-polies and all that good stuff. Then fast forward to now, it's, I started getting back into my keeping ways and just really going hard with this and really focusing on like the more obscure reptiles in the hobby. That's mainly what I keep right now, just all the obscure stuff. People are like, I can't pronounce that. Well, I mean, that's why I'm here to show you guys what is all about. That's me.
That's cool, Jason. That's cool, Jason. What about you, Anthony? How'd you get started in this, and what are the kinds of things that you keep now?
I'm not sure I got time to spill 40 years stories to you, but let's just say I was born into it. I come from a family that quite literally had a dwarf came in a fish tank on a coffee table in our living room back in the 80s. You could buy reptiles in the weirdest places. I mean, out of trunks of cars and flea markets. I mean, it was a free for all back then. So my father kept big snakes, Burmese pythons. I hate to say because I don't agree with it, but he would keep just about every reptile he could catch while he was out somewhere. And I grew up with three younger brothers. We were just exposed. We caught everything that could crawl, climb, swim, jump, hop. My father would take us fishing, and all we were doing was chasing frogs, chasing turtles, looking for everything that we weren't supposed to catch on a fishing line. So I'm 40 years old now. It's a passion that's just never died. I've just progressed. I've wanted to and have kept everything from green anacondas to now crested geckos, Nile monitors, black throat monitors. I never got into the venomous stuff. I leave that to the professionals. I've caught them in the wild. I can absolutely appreciate them. But it's just a lifelong passion. It's something that I feel like I can't really explain it. It's a feeling I get when I see a reptile. I want to learn. I want to look. I want to know everything there is to know. I want to watch them hunt. I want to watch them move. I want to watch them do everything I can and absorb everything I can. And I get all hung up on evolution and how old these reptiles are in general and what these things must have came from. And God only knows what they'll evolve to in 5 million years from now. And, I'm a big biology freak, a big science freak. I just love learning. I'm a fan of learning. And reptiles just happen to be my muse, I guess. I love them. Always have, always will. Now, I hate to say it, and I'm not knocking the woman. I'm married, love my wife to death, but no more big stuff. I can't have, the berms and the retics.
Yep.
So one day, years ago, I was out at a local reptile show of mine in White Plains, New York. And my daughter says, we're actually walking around and I was looking for frogs. I was looking for Pac-Man frogs, for cornutus to be specific. Yep. And we didn't find any, but we kept seeing crested geckos, right? And she would ask, what are those things? What are those? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. So we started doing some research together, and then all she has to do, the baby diva, is find out that they're called eyelash geckos. Well, that set off a journey and a half, let me tell you. So that opened up the door for me to New Caledonian species in general. Blew my mind that so many variations of geckos could come from one small little archipelago. Like I was just blown away. And it's never stopped since then. I've been learning. I've kept just about every species, every species of New Caledonian gecko that's in the hobby I have had or have right now. And that's, I kind of led up to me meeting Jason over Gecko Talk online, and our passions just not clashed, but meshed with each other rather. And we always wound up asking similar questions. We always have the same questions about geckos. Well, why with this and why that and why this and just things that weren't, I guess, common knowledge or information to the hobby. So I guess I'm kind of spinning off into the podcast, unintentionally, but that's when we decided that we would vow to create a platform for people to teach and people to learn. We wanted there to be a common place where people could come and discuss these less known species, these less known topics about common species. And we wanted a judgment-free zone, kind of like, the gym over here, the judgment. We didn't want anybody to knock anybody for learning anything. We wanted, we also preach ourselves, we pride ourselves rather. And the little girl that owns a leopard gecko being just as, and no offense, is just as important to the hobby as you, Josh. The one kid with one gecko means just as much to this hobby as the man running the businesses. We all make this up. We can all learn. We can all learn from each other. We all should be learning from each other. We should be teaching each other as well.
Yep.
And we've had a great journey so far, man. And Jason will tell you more about it. But he's the man, the brains behind the screen, if you will. I'm terrible at technology. I mean, I can have an actual knack for interest. Like I said before, I can talk for hours. If you guys can't tell in the last.
Now,
and like I said again, it's just this interest that just comes to me naturally. I can ask questions about nothing, and Jason orchestrates the whole circus, if you will, and we've influenced quite a few people. We've taught a few people. We've mentored quite a few people, and we've brought a lot of attention to a lot of guys that maybe some of these bigger channels wouldn't really pay attention to. Geckos aren't the biggest genre of lizard. They're close to it, but there's so many species and so many people that work with these species other than crested geckos and your New Cal stuff that, again, we wanted a spotlight for everybody to come and share.
Before we start talking about the podcast, I think it's interesting that both of you guys came into the hobby very young. And I think that's really important. That's a passion of mine, that we get more and more young people involved in our hobby. I guess to put you guys kind of on the spot, like, how do we get kids and young people more involved in this hobby? And how do we bring up that next generation? Like, I'm guessing part of that plays into what you guys are doing with the podcast. Like, I think that draws in a younger audience. But like, how do we engage younger people and bring them into our hobby? Do like what based on your guys' experience? It sounded like it was family, but like, how do we reach younger people and get them involved in our hobby?
Exposure breeds success. Without exposure, there can be no success. Simple as that. Teach, bring. Everybody should engage in their community teach people about reptiles. If you take a walk around the beach, who knows? Bring something with you. If you got kids in your family, make it a point that they learn these things. Make it a point that they see things. You have to be proactive. We can't just sit back and assume, especially in today's society, unfortunately, just assume that children in the classroom are going to learn about these things. We have to go out of our way as adults, right? And prior children of the same path. And we have to give these kids the opportunity by taking a stand, taking a charge, getting out there. And if it's just the kids in our family, if it's, I don't want to go off a little tangent, but there's a buddy of ours that Jason and I had on the podcast. He actually goes to schools. He has 2 daughters. He goes to their local schools and he brings all the species of geckos that he teaches into the schools and gives a little 15-minute seminar. That's huge for us. Huge for the hobby.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I work for a school district as well. And so what I do, I usually try to reach out to the teacher, see if anybody wants a class pet. I also do shows as well. So what I always try to engage the kids before I engage the parents, because I already know those are the ones that are going to be growing up to try to, replace myself, replace Anthony, replace all of us, right? So those are the first ones I'm trying to get at first, like show them all these cool little geckos, from your starter gecko all the way to your most advanced gecko. And like I said, with the podcast, it's we're giving out that information, and then and we're working with all ages of people, from that 19-year-old that just really started, all the way to that big time veteran on the show. So we're gathering everybody together, and hopefully it works out to where the younger generation wants to continue this.
That's cool. I appreciate what you guys are doing. So talk to me a little bit about the podcast. Go back to the beginning. Like, you guys were in a forum together, you're communicating. Like, how'd you guys land on a podcast, and how'd you guys get started? And give us a story how that got started.
Go ahead, Jay.
I mean, honestly, me and Anthony, we were just chatting back and forth on IG. He was looking at the animals I had. I think there's one post. He's like, "Yo, this is what you keep." I was like, "No, I went to a reptile sanctuary and was taking all these pictures." I live in Arizona. There's a place out here that does these massive reptile tours. So they have this big old 2-3 acres of land full of sulcatas. They have the most crocodilians in the U.S. They have the most the biggest venomous collections in the U.S. as well. So I was just taking pictures and stuff like that. And Ant's like, this is what you keep. I was like, no. But then after that, we just started, chatting up, talking about geckos. It was mainly with Ant and myself. It was Chihuahuas that we really bonded over. And then he's like, "Yo, what else do you got?" And I started showing him all the other crazy stuff I have. He's like, "I don't know any of this stuff." Well, I was like, "Well, I'm starting to teach you now." And then after that, it was, "Why don't we start a podcast?" Ant brought that up. He's like, "Why don't we just do this?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I started doing some research. And it literally was a year before we actually did the podcast. Yeah. It was I think it was probably in February of this year. I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. I found the software. I found all this stuff. Let's just go ahead and start knocking out episodes. And then, it just kept rolling. I think we're 23, 24 episodes deep right now.
Wow. Talk a little bit about the podcast. What's the structure of the podcast? You guys talked a little bit about guests, who's the guest? Give us a little bit of the trailer. What's the podcast like?
Well, it's again, I had mentioned before, we want to highlight, in the hobby, obviously there's some super popular species. There's some super popular podcasts and people that focus on just those species. And again, we felt through our conversations that it just wasn't fair to a lot of guys doing hard work with some really cool species. So what we wanted to do was pretty much build a stage for these guys working with these super cool animals that nobody knows much about to come on and pretty much pitch themselves. Sell your business, teach us about the animals, let us know why we should keep Surdactylus over a crested gecko. Why should you keep knobtail versus a leopard gecko? We let them come on, and we pretty much compare and contrast, popular things versus these other things. We ask the common questions that would give our watchers a general idea on how simple or hard it may be to care for these animals. And lots of times, not for nothing, but we spotlight species that are actually easier to keep than most of these popular ones, right? And it's mind-blowing sometimes that some of these things are so cool, easier to keep, rare, I suppose, but just as easy to get if there was more interest. But yet they're not. So we felt that was a problem. So we were like, let's get these people on. And I don't think, we've had some crossover episodes where some keepers and breeders have had the same species. But for the most part, Jason has orchestrated in a sense where we've had 25 episodes with 25 different species of geckos so far. And the list goes on. We've had Herp Time. We've had some phenomenal guests. Joe Hupp. We've had some legends, some guys that are putting in crazy work and have been for decades, and they have so much to offer and teach us. It's kind of like having a living encyclopedia that you can, we do a live audience, a live chat where our guests can ask our guest on the show a question. Or questions. We kind of freestyle it though. Jason will have a set of structured questions, but we want it to be a relaxed environment. We let the conversation take flow. We stay on track with what we try to with this, if you will. But we want it to be nothing more than a vending, a table at a show, if you will.
Yep.
If it was just a show and me and you were there, Josh, and I saw something new that I never saw before, and I asked you all that I wanted to know or needed to know to keep this cool species, and you being the professional had the opportunity right there at that table to tell me, and that's pretty much, what we're doing and what we do. Jason will give you a little bit more detail. He's the structured side of the thing. Yep. I'm just a big mess, but there's a reason behind my madness. I just like talking to people. I feel that if I talk to our guests, and just have a simple conversation, we just have a better conversation. It's not that structured questions were missing anything, but I just want our guests to feel welcome, I suppose, and our viewers to feel welcome. And I want everybody to know that nobody's an idiot. There is no stupid questions, I'll intentionally ask questions that I know the answers to just because I don't want kids. I want everybody to feel equal. And that's the biggest thing is we are all equally learning. Yep. So it's
Ann was saying, like, for me, I gotta write questions down. I am I'm an introvert, so if I don't have my questions, then I'm kind of almost useless. You know what I'm saying? Yep. But like you said, like we've had some great people on, like Wally Kern. Wally, I love Wally to death. Like he's been on a couple times, and then he's also been like a special co-host for us as well. Yeah. He's just one of those people in the hobby that you love to have in the hobby. Like, when I think of the reptile, like the gecko community, I think of Wally Kern. Yeah. Like that's where I want people to like aim to what kind of person to be. And so, I mean, just in general, like you said, we're trying to showcase a lot of different species. Like the last episode that just released for us was we had a conversation with Joe Hupp on Aussie leaf-tailed geckos versus Europlatus leaf-tailed geckos, right? And just having it like a pro and cons, and so people can make an educated decision on what route they should go if they want to choose to get a leaf-tailed gecko. We've had different conversations about U.S. art, importation, exports with some buddies of ours. We talked to Thomas Marriott, right? He did an expedition over in New Caledonia. So getting you some great information about your New Cal geckos. What all the things that he saw there, what observations, because not a lot of people do know about it. They just kind of go off of, all right, it's room temp, we give them diet, boom, that's it, right? There's a whole lot of other stuff that goes on, and he was just kind of going over that stuff. And it's just great information to have. regardless if they use it or not, they have it. And like I said, for me, like information, like I love information. I love getting just all kinds of stuff. Like I always show, I have a binder full of just care guides,
Wow.
different stuff I pulled from the internet. I use Academia EDU to pull different information. I use iNaturalist to pull different information, and I just print all this stuff out and I just put it into a binder. So whatever I'm interested in, I already have that information before I even think about buying the animal that I want to get.
Yep. That's cool. That's cool. Talk a little bit about like what you want to the podcast to turn into. Like what are you hoping to accomplish? What are you trying to inspire in our hobby? Like what's the goal for what this podcast could be in the future?
Well, I know for myself, for my part, is I want people to get out there and do the research, and I'm hoping that's what this podcast generates to those people. Is just get out, do research, look up things about the animals that you're interested in, so you can make that educated decision if that's going to be a right animal for you or not. Honestly, back in the day, like one of my first geckos was a golden gecko. Knew nothing about it. So like if I had some resources, I probably would have. I probably would have still bought the gecko. I just had a better understanding of why is this gecko turning so dark? Because I didn't know nothing about firing up, firing down. I thought it was dying on me. I thought I was mad at the world. So, and then of course, like my next gecko I tried to get was a tokay, and that was just like not working either. Right when I saw, like I always tell the story, like I was in this pet store. Dude started putting on a cut glove, and I work in food service, so I was like, why does he have a cut glove on to get a tokay? And then Tokay made that noise and went right after his hand. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting that. I'm good right now. So I ended up getting a leopard gecko. So, but yeah, that's for my part. It's, the research, the education, like I said, spotlighting species that are just as easy as some of the industry standard pets. They're not just readily available like those ones. So that's my thing right there.
I mean, same thing. My intention and what I would like to see in the future is I take a lot of inspiration from you, Josh. I watch a lot of things you do. I follow a lot of things you do. I've watched all your podcasts. I know your whole backstory. I know. I just admire what you do. And
thank you.
Like yourself, I want to be a one-stop shop source of information. And a bridge, if you will. I want to bridge the questions to the people with the questions. I want to be a source of inspiration, education. I want a common ground where everybody can come and look for answers to questions they may have on less known things, I guess, kind of like a digital encyclopedia, if you will. We also talked about setting off on a little journey of kind of creating a network. We want to start some other channels with some, bug guys and some,
cool idea.
We want to, have these channels, I guess, if you will. I don't know how to really articulate what I'm trying to say. I would like there to be kind of like your podcast where somebody can come on and just, let everything fly about a species and you'll learn a whole bunch, but at the end of the day, you ultimately leave with more questions than you came with. But like Jason said, the inspiration to go and learn and read more yourself. We want to spark, we want to teach, yet spark interest. We want to, well, I'm speaking for myself, I guess, but I know Jay's on the same page. We just want to be a go-to place where everybody can come and learn, teach, share, kind of like a nice version of Facebook for everybody, where everybody can just come and join and share a common interest and just learn from each other and talk and just not be afraid to get off the beaten path, explore new species, we'll see, only the future knows, I can't tell, but I do know that I have 40 years of undying passion. It's not likely to stop anytime soon. All we're really doing taking this passion we've always had and digitalizing it, I guess.
Yep.
We're taking our passion and bringing it to the modern world with the intentions also of inspiring younger children, and continuing it their way,
Yep.
My days, we would drive around from vet shop to vet shop on our bicycles and ask the vets if they had any books that they could print us pages out of. We'd go to the library, we take the books, but there was no internet. We would animals on TV and we try to just copy what they were. I mean, we in ball pythons gerbils because they were African soft hairs. Like we were so all over the place. When you see how the is today versus what it was, it's like wow. It's amazing.
That's cool. You guys are doing something really needed in this hobby that I don't think we value as much as we value some of the other stuff. So maybe somebody's breeding a unique species, or they're having tons of success with animals. All that is cool, but what really is going to move our hobby forward is that knowledge sharing and getting people together and caring about the animals that we keep. And so I'm just so thankful for the part you guys are playing in our hobby. And the cool thing about a lot of the stuff that you guys are creating is that long after you guys are gone, people will be listening to a podcast you guys did with Wally, or listening to Joe talk about some of those geckos that he works with. And that's just really cool that the work you guys are putting in is going to last for decades and centuries beyond that. So that's really cool. I would encourage everybody who's listening to this to go to your favorite podcast host and definitely just subscribe and check out what you guys are doing. So I'd like to finish with a lightning round if I could. I want you to give me the first answer that comes to your mind. If you can't think of anything, we can pass, but just give us the first thing that would come to your mind. All right. So first off, if money and space are no option, you got unlimited money, you got unlimited space, what's the next pet that you would keep?
I'm getting a Bronia.
Going beaded lizards.
That's cool. That's cool. Both options that are becoming more and more common in our hobby. So that's really cool. All right. You guys have listed a bunch of other breeders. You mentioned Joe and Wally, and we'll throw links to them. But give me somebody in our hobby, maybe a little bit under the radar, maybe not as popular as they probably should be. Who's a company or a breeder that's just doing really cool things in our hobby that we would like to shine a little spotlight on them?
I'm going to go with NCG Reptiles, my buddy Nelson. He's the guy I was speaking about that goes to the schools and gives the presentations on his own watch. He is one of those people that is for the hobby. He will whatever he's doing to answer a question for anybody. He has two young daughters that he is adamant about teaching about them. They help him clean gecko cages. They do podcast videos with him. Well, he has a YouTube channel. They record with him. To see how he teaches those girls, his daughters, makes me thoroughly confident that this hobby will be okay in the future. And cool. Nelson at NCG Reptiles absolutely deserves my nomination for underrated, for people doing amazing things.
Cool. What about you, Jason?
I actually got two. It's going to be so vivtech. I love vivtech, their bulbs and everything they're doing over there. With they got smart sensors, smart outlets now. Like I said, the UVB LED, they were kind of the first ones to start making that wave. And now you're starting to see the other people starting to try to make that wave as well. So love them for everything they're doing. And then of course, I love my THN guys, right? They're the reason why we really want to do a podcast, the Herpetoculture Network. I said they got a big network where they have different shows within that podcast channel. That's something that we aspire to do as well.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. You're away from the world of pets. What's the coolest animal that's on our planet? What's something that you guys see on Animal Planet or on Discovery Channel or picked up somewhere online? What's the coolest animal on our planet right now?
Orca, no doubt about it.
What about you, Jason?
Oh man. I don't know. I've always been fascinated with just crocodilians. Just they're long lasting. They haven't really changed in who knows how long. So they're almost like that perfect species that didn't have to evolve to with the times.
You don't see orcas in the same water as crocodiles, do you? You don't see crocodiles in the water with orcas. That's for sure.
Right. That's right. That's right. All right. You guys got a free hour of free time. What is it that you guys are doing? What are you guys doing with the free hour? Nobody's bugging you. You can do whatever you want. What are you guys doing with the free hour?
Sitting with my dog. My dog's my best thing that's ever happened to me, man. My dog.
What's your dog's name?
Chase.
Chase. That's a great dog name. I love it. Perfect. What about you, Jason? What are you doing with an hour of free time?
Oh, man, hour of free time, I'm probably just researching some stuff. I'm like, oh, what's this lizard right here? Oh, gotta start looking. So, because like I said, a lot of times I'm at my desk. So if I got a free time, I'm like, okay, let's go in here, look for something. Okay. I'm on like Morph Market. What is this? Okay, hold on. Now let's go over here, type in the scientific name. What is it? So that's what I'm normally doing.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Last question. You guys got everybody's ear. Everybody's listening to you. They're not doing anything else but listening to this podcast. What's one piece of advice, one reminder? What's one piece of encouragement? What's one sentence? What's a couple of sentences that you would tell to somebody else you got their ear?
Well, I would say, in all honesty, when it comes down to reptiles, if you're going to keep a species of reptile because it fascinates you. Not because it's popular, not because someone suggested you get it. Keep something that never stops sparking your interest. Something that you wake up every day and smile at. Something that you want to learn about and continue learning about for as long as you're breathing.
Yeah. I'm gonna go off that a little bit as well, because like we said, we talked about that with Joe Hill, because I asked him, because he's full-time breeder. So I was like, what's something that you would think or tell somebody, and it's like you said, make sure it's something that you actually like and not just because it's for the money. Because when you do it for the money, you're going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
And if you do it for something that you love, you're going to continue loving it even if you're not making any money.
Yep.
And then of course my other thing is, podcast. It's all about research. Never stop evolving yourself when it comes to your care techniques. Always keep yourself updated with everything that's going on within the reptile hobby, as far as the reptiles you're keeping, because there could be something minuscule that you might have missed because you're set already in your ways. Don't be so closed-minded. Open your eyes to everything in the world.
Awesome. You guys have been great guests on the podcast today. I encourage everybody, check out the Gecko Exchange podcast. I think it's really cool to catch the passion that you guys have for the animals we keep and the hobby that we're so involved in. So thank you guys for all that you guys are doing for the hobby, and hopefully we can support you guys more in the future.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
For the opportunity, man. I appreciate you so much. Great things. You're doing amazing things, man. Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoy this content and want to stay up to date, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us across social media. We always want to bring you the best content, so let us know what you think in the comments. And for all your reptile and amphibian needs, be sure to check us out at joshsfrogs.com. We have an amazing selection. Until next time, stay curious, stay froggy, and keep exploring.